So Sheila, we're going to talk about GDPR, and I wanted to first level set it in terms of the broad implications, and then we can get into a little bit more. But I think there's a few things I'd love to talk to. One is sort of the implications of it, and also how the industry, what you think the impact could be, and also the current attitude of the industry, of the digital media world.
Well, the overall effect is one of accountability. I don't think our industry has ever had this level of accountability codified into law. So we are all going to have to think about, and we're in the process of thinking about, our data governance practices, quite specifically, and standing up programs to govern all of that data. So the good news is, with this kind of accountability being brought to an industry that's been very innovative and gone very, very fast, it does tend to create some trust in the marketplace and give consumers, or in European parlance, the data subjects, more trust in the digital ad tech ecosystem. So that's the good news. The troublesome news is it's a rather hostile environment in Europe at the moment. There's some very strong and strident questions about observationally driven advertising. Now, we all know and believe that advertising supports the economy and jobs and creates free content. So we are all very passionate about making our way through this very comprehensive set of accountability laws and corresponding regulations.
So what is the, what is the state of the industry's compliance or readiness? And, you speak to a lot of people, you go to a lot of conferences. Are people taking it seriously? Are they not? Do they understand it? Sort of give us your thoughts on the state of industry preparedness or awareness for GDPR.
About 6 months ago, I would say that perhaps the industry had not really had a moment of reckoning yet. I think that moment's come. I think we are all grappling with the stark realities of how to devise this data governance accountability program. One of the things that we've struggled with is waiting on the collection of data protection authorities from the European countries, called the Article 29 Working Party, or WP29 for short. They have issued guidance against the different articles in the GDPR over time. And the one that we've all been waiting for and has now come out in draft is the consent guidelines. So for our industry, for digital ad tech, the consent mechanism was somewhat favorable, or we thought it was, until the guidance came out. And now it's so specified that it's a challenge for us, because not only do you have to have a GDPR level notice, which is more transparency, something we all believe in. It's hard to do, especially on the small screen mobile, it's hard. But the consent mechanism is quite specified, and it has to be validated. So you have to have some sort of logging mechanism. Upon inspection, you can demonstrate that you've achieved affirmative consent.
So what does that mean for companies? We see a lot of digital companies. What does that mean? How do they have to change to comply with this? Or how does these regulations change business as usual?
Well, business as usual is, from a U.S. perspective, of course, we innovate very fast, as I've said, and we stand up amazing solutions, and then we adjust in flow. What it means from a European perspective is now, and this is part of the law, we have to think about privacy by design. So the data protection has to be built in at the engineering layer. You have to think about it when you're designing your solution, so you can understand the outcome or the impact, and it's all designed in and functions within the design layer. And this is very different. So we all have to stand up data governance programs in the design layer with an eye to the impact to the data subject or the individual consumer. We have to make sure that the notice and consent pieces are built in, and that we capture that in a demonstrable way, so that if we're required to, and we get an inspection or a control action, we can show that we've conformed. There's many other parts to the law, of course. There's 99 different articles in GDPR, and we all have to at least evaluate our businesses against each of the articles and determine which ones apply and then how they apply and how we're going to accommodate them.
Tell us about preparation at Acxiom and LiveRamp and your global operations and your preparation and sort of where things stand.
Well, little good news for us. We've had a global data ethics program for many years. So this is an opportunity for us, and what we've used it as our big catalyst to get tighter and innovate. So we're using a lot of automation, and we're reaching into technology tools to really help us solve. A great example is this. We've always done a data protection impact assessment, but now those have to be recorded, decisions have to be documented, and they have to be easily retrievable if you get a control or inspection. So we're using some automation. We're standing up a tool where we capture all of the facts and the decisions, and it's queryable and we can run reports on it. So for us, we're not ready yet, but we're running as hard as we can. Of course, for LiveRamp, we rely on a big ecosystem of partnerships. So we're partnering with all of our partners to try to bring everybody along with us and have very thoughtful and instructive conversations about how we all get this done together, and we're moving toward it. We're aiming for the end of February. We'll probably have some cleanup after that, but I think we're tracking pretty good right now.
And Sheila, finally, put into context sort of the global implications of GDPR as far as privacy as we know it, and how that might kind of impact not just here, not just Europe, but perhaps globally, and how privacy could be redefined perhaps.
Well, that's probably the best question. GDPR is setting a global tone. It's a very comprehensive body of law and fairly prescriptive. And of course, for the Europeans, they have this construct called adequacy. So if you want to trade data with Europe, and you've got to have a similar set of data protection constructs so that you can achieve adequacy. So GDPR is having a global effect, including the neighbors to the north, so to the north of the United States. So it's very important that all of us in the digital ad tech stack begin to think about our data governance programs outside of Europe, because I think this GDPR is spreading everywhere. About the only way to effectively inoculate ourselves is to become very thoughtful data stewards and think about data from the perspective of the individual. If you think about the stakeholder and the society, let's say, in addition to your business objectives and your revenue numbers, and you begin to shape your data uses according to the interests of the individual in particular, and you ensure that the use of the data is beneficial, it has a beneficial impact from the lens or the perspective of the individual, that's a very strong inoculation.